Okay, item number 4 is the proposed review of taxi rank bylaws, and we have a verbal report on that one.
Well, the current bylaws are the 2011 bylaws. There are a number of drivers for change that are quite immediate. There's the Lewis Cross City project, which is underway, and that's going through the centre of the city, and it's going to displace quite a number of taxi ranks. There's also, arising from quite a number of traffic service requests and from representations from the taxi regulator, there's a big increase in the nighttime taxi activity, particularly in the city centre, and there's inadequate space for those taxis. And quite a number of other locations have issues with the current taxi arrangement as it stands. So at this stage we have quite a lot of requests for and proposals for changes, and we would propose to prepare a draft review incorporating what we would consider to be the appropriate changes, whether it's additional ranks or removal of existing ranks, and that we would progress them with the SPC probably at the next meeting. In addition to the change of the bylaws, which really is the major issue, which we're just flagging for you here today, I don't have any further detail than that, but there is a need, and we're doing it within the existing bylaws. There is a need from time to time for temporary changes on a street-by-street basis to facilitate short-term construction works in that area. So obviously with the Lewis construction underway at the moment, the Sellers Works, for example, with the manager's order, referencing the bylaws, we can move 3 taxi spaces up the street or down the street. So in the short term, pending the bylaws being reviewed, obviously we'll continue to work on that basis. So essentially that's it.
Okay, any questions there, anyone? Yeah, Councillor Benchy.
Yeah, I seem like I'm talking on everything today, but we've a lot of interesting things here. You mentioned removing and adding taxi spaces. Generally around the city centre there's a huge shortage of taxi spaces, where the Gardaí are refusing to enforce, or don't enforce generally, this phenomenon of huge rows of taxis parking along the side of the road, where there's a rank that holds 4 taxis and you'll get 12 or 14 taxis, or else these illegal or semi-formal, if you want to call them, taxi ranks that spring up around the city in front of certain pubs. I think we need to either introduce into the bylaws a way of enforcing that, or else accept defeat and put in giant taxi ranks around the city. But the situation as it is at the moment isn't working. So either we expand capacity, or else we say that we are going to stop taxis from parking on the side of the road in long lines in areas where they shouldn't be parking.
Any other? Yeah, Councillor Paddy McCartan.
Well, Chair, I don't know whether I'd agree with my colleague on that one, because I remember when we brought in all these extra taxi ranks, the situation prior to that was pretty chaotic, and I think I've had far less complaints about abuse there at taxi ranks, and I think it has contributed, the extension of it. Now, I'm just wondering how many are going to be displaced, and also, look, we put our hands up and said we got it wrong at the taxi rank on Simmons Court Road, and after some pressure it was moved over to the other side of the road, and that works very well. And I'd also be interested to know whether the impact of the new car clubs now is going to have any, is it in conflict with the taxis? Is it in opposition to them? It's probably too early to tell, but no doubt that will come up at another SPC review of the car clubs. So, thank you.
Councillor Larry O'Toole.
Hi, Chair. Well, my view on this is we kept, or still do maybe, keep issuing taxi plates. And we certainly didn't come up with enough taxi ranks or spaces to accommodate all of those. Even out in the suburbs, you know, you'd see taxis parked outside licensed premises at a certain hour of the night, trying to get a fare, or even outside restaurants. All of that may not be designated taxi ranks. But if we didn't designate them as taxi ranks, we still have to accommodate the people who, are trying to make a living, and they're also trying to serve the public. No, I don't think when we issued hundreds and hundreds of taxi plates, we certainly didn't keep up with it as regarding facilities for them to rank up. And that thereby lies the issue. I mean, I know inside the city centre, especially down that street there where we're sitting, down the street, it's chaotic. You see, there's a taxi rank, there's unofficial taxi ranks, and then there's people driving down the street who pick up a fare. So, I mean, if I was walking on that street as a taxi driver, I'd be wondering, is it better to go on the rank, go on the unofficial rank, or just keep driving up and down the street? Just one more thing, Anne, is regarding the Lewis, works. I met some taxi drivers who work the main rank, I suppose, in O'Connell Street at the Gresham there, and the other hotel used to be the Royal Dublin. They have a concern that either temporarily or permanently they're going to be asked to move into a rank on the side street. That's their concern. I don't fully understand it, but they do have a major concern there. I'm wondering, are we talking to them or having discussions with them as regarding that specific rank at the Gresham? Thanks, Chair.
Sean Paul.
When I seen the taxi rank bylaws, I had a bit of a laugh to myself, because as councillors have quite rightly said, there's unofficial taxi ranks all over the city. Sunday, coming out of Croke Park, there was 70 taxis queued on Drumcondra Road. There's no taxi rank, So one of the things, I have had a number of taxi men say to me over it that they've been fined by the guards because they've been outside taxi ranks. I don't know how it works, but I'd like a report to come to us to find out how many taxi men have been fined in the last year or 2 years for that breach, because that's important. But as I said, taxi ranks, I mean, all the way home, you can go, every public house in this city is an unofficial taxi rank now, everywhere. Anywhere there's a crowd of people, if there's a crowd of school kids have money in a school now, there's a taxi rank outside. So we're bringing in bylaws to affect the people that can get into a taxi rank, but what about the others? But as I said, that aspect, that fine to the taxi man for being outside, the unlucky one, I'd like to know how many taxi men have been fined in the last year or 2 years. Thanks.
Councillor Eady-Wynne.
Chairman, I'll just be very brief on this one. You can't help noticing the number of taxis in town, and I'm not in the middle of town. I live in the suburbs, nice quiet suburbs sometimes. But there are a huge number of taxis all the time. They're almost, say, around 11 o'clock or midnight. There are very few private cars on the road. It is all taxis. And I would also like to get some kind of report or put some kind of regulation on where they park, because it is one of the very good things that people are not driving. They're using taxis. But if they're using taxis, the taxis also have to be accommodated. So just, I think we should look at this a bit further. Thank you.
Councillor Vinci again.
Just what Councillor Wynne said, it's a great idea would be to see if we can be flexible and have something that's normal parking during the day and becomes a taxi rank in the evening. And that might be how you get the excess.
Manager, do you want to come in there?
It's on that last point, and Tom can come in then, but we do actually do that loading bays, loading areas convert to taxi ranks in the... Yeah, they become taxi ranks in the evening, so they do to try and accommodate, but it's the sheer number of that. So I'll let Tom...
Sorry, Tom, before you come in, I just might make a few points myself. Just to agree with with Councillor O'Toole there. I mean, and I suppose a lot of the councillors meet with taxi drivers who say that they're not being listened to and there's no formal lines of communication. I suspect there is, but maybe if you might let us know what that, because I hear it regularly, we don't get to meet, we don't get consulted, and if they're not, or if some of them aren't, part of the problem is that there's so many different taxi organisations, but I think we should do our very best to talk to as many as possible, because it always is good to talk. Just also, how many taxi rank locations are there, and how many taxi licences have we? And I'm not sure, are the taxi licence issued on the 4 counties of Dublin, or is it Dublin City Council that issues its own taxi licences, and they separate from Fingal and South Dublin? I don't know, maybe you might fill that in. Just in terms of taxi drivers breaking the rules, the Minister has just recently announced, Minister Alan Kelly had a forum on taxis, and they're bringing in a penalty point system specifically for taxi drivers, and if you get up to 12 penalty points, there's a different name. It's not penalty points he's calling it, but if you get 12 penalty points in the taxi system, you'll lose your licence for a period of time. So it'll make it easier to enforce those situations where taxi drivers aren't, it'll have a bigger impact than a fine, because a fine's a once-off, but if you lose, if you know it's going to stack up towards you losing your licence, I think it'll change your behaviour a bit more. Just one thing I'd like to raise is, after having lived in the city centre for a year, is the noise of taxis at night at around 3 o'clock in the morning. It is, they just start honking their horns. It's like being downtown Manhattan in rush hour. And that's something I'd like to see clamped down on for people who are living in the city centre. It becomes unbelievably noisy at around that time, and they shouldn't be allowed to honk their horns at 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't know whether they're fighting with each other or try and attract customers' attentions, but that noise at 3 o'clock in the morning just shouldn't be allowed in our city centre, and that's something, if there isn't bylaws against it, it's something we should maybe write to the Minister about, getting that as one of the penalty point issues for taxi drivers in particular. Okay, Tom.
Thanks, Cathaoirleach. Yes, I have a little bit of data that might help here. There's about 11,000 taxis registered in the Dublin area, and our current bylaws provide about 500 spaces. So obviously there's a mismatch there that we're quite conscious of. The enforcement by the Gardaí is of the general traffic regulations, but there's also an NTA inspectorate who also have powers, and I understand they'll be involved in this special penalty points system. And in fact, part of the NTA is the taxi regulator, so part of the representations we've received is from the NTA, in fact, because they acknowledge that it's unreasonable for them to be enforcing penalties on a compliant group of people who aren't provided with sufficient space to operate. Just in relation to consulting with the taxi representatives through the activities that have arisen from cooperating with the Lewis Project, Dublin City Council Traffic Section meet on a 2-monthly basis with the RPA, who are sponsoring the Lewis Project, and with the Taxi Forum. And that includes 6 representative taxi groups, and we understand that practically all of the taxi people are represented there. And we have noted to them any measures that were, even short-term measures that are proposed. So we've opened up a communications arrangement with the Taxi Forum, and that's ongoing. Just with regard to the Lewis itself, it's going to displace in the order of 60 existing taxi spaces permanently. So the immediate starting point is that in overall terms, it's our intention that there would be no loss of overall numbers of taxi spaces arising from the Lewis project in the immediate vicinity, and then obviously that would be part of the context for looking at the wider area. And just I would say, in relation to the noise at night time, that would seem to be a symptom of the existing lack of ranks, or the very small ranks not accommodating sufficient taxis to meet the demand, and where we have looked at the possibilities for new nighttime ranks, it does appear that there's that would be one of the issues that would be addressed by increasing the scope. Oh yes, and just to clarify, as I said, the NTA, National Transport Authority, is the taxi regulator, and they issue the taxi licences. It's not Dublin City Council or any of the local authorities that issue the licences.
Can I just, in terms of the consultation piece, because I think several of us are getting, requests for more consultation. I think it's good to hear there's a taxi forum there, and I think that is the conduit to go. But perhaps we could invite the taxi forum to make a presentation to this committee, so that we can hear, the public reps can hear their issues in an open way, and so all of them can come along, and between them they can decide who speaks, because I know that's part of the issue. There's so many different representatives of organisations, but they themselves can decide who makes the presentation, but they can come and talk to us at maybe our next meeting. Would that be a reasonable suggestion? Is that okay? Yeah, is that agreed? Okay, well, we'll do that. Okay, great. Well, let's